Hey everybody, welcome back. And today we're in the kitchen again, going to be cooking. And today's cut of meat is a rump roast. When you go to the grocery, probably the most common roast that you find is a chuck roast. That comes out of the front shoulder. What we're cooking today comes out of the back of the cow. And so one of the things we want to keep in mind, we raise beef, we sell beef. And so the whole point to this is trying to show you some ideas and some ways that you can prepare beef for your family. Do you know anything about rump roast?
No, not really. I mean, what you said made a lot of sense.
Big cut of meat, yeah.
Comes from the back of the cow. It's called a rump roast.
Yeah. So it is a little more tender than the chuck roast, but it is also a bigger piece. The way that it's typically cut's a little bit different. And so we're going to cook one up today and get started on that. And so this is just going to be a slow cooker style in a crock pot, right?
Last episode we kind of did something that was a little bit less known and everything, or something that you may see in a real high-class restaurant. But I think everybody's familiar with a crock pot, or at least most people are. And this is just something that's just freaking awesome. I mean, there's nothing better than on like a cold day, or it's raining out there, just setting something in the crock pot. It's gonna make the house smell good, and it's gonna be freaking delicious. So let's get it going.
Yeah. Another thing to remember, the cool thing about this is that if you can do some prep the night before, throw this together the next morning, set it in the crock pot, and when you come home for supper, you've got supper ready. So that's the great thing about these crock pot recipes. So.
All right, come back over here. So we're gonna get this big guy out. Try not to get blood absolutely everywhere.
Well, I know what you're gonna do.
What?
You're gonna get blood absolutely everywhere.
Like that?
How about like
that almost just happened?
Out in the sink?
We could do that. So it looks like we've got a little butcher's twine on here, which is okay. We'll just take that right off there. Excellent. So there's our boneless rump roast. So we're going to get it out of all this twine. We're going to dress it up a little bit before we put it in. Then we're going to put it in. It's going to be a good time. It's one thing we're looking for, and this is cut pretty interestingly. There's a lot of like excess fat that's on this thing. Like right there, there's a good hard piece of fat and connective tissue. Let's see if we can't get in there and take it off.
So that's definitely one thing about these roasts is that they do have a lot of that connective tissue that is just going to be very tough and everything if you don't get rid of it, right?
Right, yeah. So as with any cut of meat, kind of like we did with the short ribs, you just got to kind of dress it up a little bit before you start to cook with it. And I think that that's something, you know, different places are going to have different processes for cutting and everything like that. And, you know, if you buy something on the shelf at Kroger, it may be dressed up a little bit differently than something you get straight from a butcher where you took the steer directly to them and just said, hey, cut this up. They're probably going to put a little bit less work in. But Kroger, who's like trying to sell a product, is going to be like, hey, we need to dress this up and make it nice and neat so that it looks good.
Presentation.
Right. Precisely. So there's just a little bit of this hard fat that's kind of in here. And you're not going to get all of the fat out. And you don't really want to either. Because if you take 100% of the fat out of this thing and you just have
cook it down.
Lean meat, it's not going to be very good.
So these roast cuts are definitely leaner than your pieces like your ribeye, for example. Of course, everybody thinks of that as being a tender piece. And these roasts are always a less tender piece, and we've got to try to cook them a little bit differently. As Josh was saying, the way the butcher butchers this meat is different, and this is from a different shop than what we're using now. The guys that we use now are extremely neat, and their products that we open up are just fantastic in the way that they look and the way they've been prepped. This all turns out good, tastes the same. It's just it's not quite as pretty.
Right.
And we definitely, the guys that we're doing now are a little bit prettier. And part of what you're seeing here where they've cut all this around is the deboning. You know, if they left that bone in, part of that would still be connected.
Yeah, and what I'm just trying to trim up is just, and you can like feel a difference in it. It's just a lot of this like hard fat. You get these big fat deposits, and it just feels very, it's very firm and it's very thick. But there's a lot of fat. Well, there's a decent amount of fat that I'm going to leave on this. Like all this marbling in here and everything, you can feel it. It feels totally different than some of these pieces that I've cut off. And this is going to, when we put it in the slow cooker, it's going to cook down and it's going to render that fat. But it's just cleaning it up a little bit because you don't want all those hard pieces of fat in there when you're finished cooking, because it might not render them as well as some of this other, like these smaller pieces. Let's see if I can get that here. And I think that's going to be, let me try to get that out of there. I mean, where we're at right now, I think that's all the trimming that I'm gonna do to it, because you still want to have some fat on it and incorporated. Because if you don't, and that's when you just get into this 100% lean cut of meat, that's not going to really be that good. All right, so let's get our crock pot. So we've got our crock pot here. Jason was kind enough to cube up these potatoes for us. Oh, they look more kind of like rectangular, and I wanted them cubed, but that's neither here nor there. Diced onion, minced garlic.
Stand by. Does anybody consider that to be a rectangle?
Go get a tape measure.
They're like quarter circles. They're not rectangles at all.
Look, this side is definitely longer than this side. I'm not worried about what's going on over here because that's the outside of the potato. But this side right here is definitely longer than that one. Same on that one too.
Probably same on all of them.
Potentially. I don't know. That one looks pretty good. It's a little pizza slice. You know I love pizza. So we got our roast here. We've got some beef broth. 1 can of cream of mushroom soup. And then another thing we've got here is some dry Italian dressing mix. That is from my grandmother's recipe. That was one thing she always threw in when she threw her roasts together in a crock pot. And I like the way her roast tastes. So, you know, why not? Have you all ever done that? The Italians say, okay.
We usually just go salt and pepper.
Really? Okay.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, really living off the land, aren't you? Yeah. So we're gonna throw everything in.
Keeping it simple.
Correct, yes. Great. Excellent job. There's a Charlie Daniels song about you.
Oh yeah?
It's called Simple Man. So we got our little bed of onion and minced garlic. I'm going to toss in some of the potatoes. Like, look at this guy. Look at that one.
Yeah. Yeah,
What's
look at
happening
it.
there?
It's all apart. It's just fine.
One thing I forgot to mention, we also got some baby cut carrots, which Jason has already made his way into,
I
like
really
a little
like some carrots.
like a little mouse or something. We're gonna throw some of those in. Now we're gonna take this roast, set him in there very nicely. We give the hands a quick rinse because food safety is very important. And how would it look if I touched raw meat and then continued to touch all these other items? Not very good. It'd be pretty gross, especially in my mind. So you give the hands a little rinse. Use way more paper towels than you need. And you come back to the old cooking station. We're gonna open this up.
Oh, ruining my knife. Here we go.
It's not gonna ruin it. It's a nice knife. So we'll drop that guy in there. And that is that's a little hack. I didn't know if you all knew. Just make a hole in the bottom of it.
Stab the can.
Correct. Because sometimes it creates a vacuum and it just doesn't want to come out for whatever reason. So we'll go with a little bit of beef broth.
And by a little bit, you mean
Just whatever you're feeling.
most of the box?
Yeah, whatever feels right. How about the whole box? Yeah.
I guess that's it.
Yeah. So a little bit is 32 ounces or 2 pounds, as it says on here. 907 grams for those of y'all that are across the pond.
Now the Italian seasoning.
Yes, the Italian seasoning. Look at that. Can't tell me that doesn't
That
look
level
good.
of care, is that pretty important too?
Yeah,
How careful you sprinkle?
Yeah.
You just
So-
use one? Just one package?
Just one package. Because what we're gonna do, you can always taste and adjust and everything, right? Give a little cook time and everything. So I know Jason loves the old carrots. So I'll give him a little
I
bit.
think we need this package too.
You think so?
Oh,
You know?
for sure. Carrots are the best.
I love potatoes, so we'll get like a couple more of these going. And
You really had me cut up too many potatoes.
well, yeah, you just started. Look, that one's green on the bottom. We'll just like remove him.
Hey, what did you do with those pieces of meat that you cut off?
They're in the garbage.
Oh no, do you know Bandit would have loved that? And
Bandit
so
probably
Tom-Tom.
would have loved it. Tom Tom would have as well.
Man, I can't believe you did that to your little buddy.
Yeah, Tom Tom is my little buddy. How about that, Jason? That's a lot of orange there.
That's pretty good.
I
think I'll have one too.
What's not to like? It's delicious.
Probably all the crunching that'll be on this video that's to not like.
Yeah, they're absolutely delicious. So, we're gonna plug it in. Kick this bad boy on high.
What do you want?
The lid.
You need to add any water or anything?
We're gonna let it chill and we're gonna see how it does. This thing's gonna actually release some juices and everything. And once that cream of mushroom soup kind of breaks apart, I
forgot about that. You got all the beef broth and the soup, so I guess
right. So it's gonna kind of, and it's in a very homogeneous glob right now. But once it kind of heats up, it's gonna break up. And
he has no idea what homogeneous means either. I assure you.
No, I do.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So now we just wait.
Right. Sit here from anywhere between 8 to 10 hours and just like look at the lid. Watch for any major changes.
Yeah. So this is actually where he's going to go and get to work. Doing something more productive. We'll check back on this in a little while. All right. So after a long day between farming and building, we've finally gotten back. And as promised, this is just set it and forget it, right, Josh?
It is set it and forget it. It wasn't entirely forget it because you wouldn't leave me alone about it all day. But as I promised, it is ready at a fairly decent hour of the night. You know, he kept saying that it was, oh my God, it's gonna be midnight. No, it's not. So here's a fork for you. And I know you like carrots. Would you like a little soup to go on top of it, a little broth?
Yeah, sure. We gotta have a little bit of the juice.
A little bit of the soup. I think it's gonna be fantastic. Yeah, just like all that flavoring and everything. So give it a taste, Jason. Because I'm pretty partial to it. I think that my own food's pretty good. I'm gonna nab one of them carrots from you.
Oh my God, it's the same song.
Thank you. We're going nuts here.
Pretty tasty. So I'm not used to the Italian flavoring,
Yeah.
but I like it. It's definitely, you know, it's not the norm. It's something different. And that's the point, is that we're trying to show you some different ways to cook some things up. And again, remember, we sell beef. That's what we do. That's our deal.
This is one of your cows.
And yeah, this is ours. And we just want you to know some different ways to prepare stuff. And that way when you buy, if you were to come to us and buy a half or a whole or something like that, you kind of know what to do with some of these different cuts. And it seems, my normal trips to the grocery store don't see a lot of rump roast, see a lot more chuck roast. And so just kind of showing you that you can really do similar things with this rump roast and make yourself a nice meal, right?
I am very happy with the way it turned out. We were out working all day and everything, and I mean it's
yeah, that's not right. That's an hour.
It's 8:45 at night when we finally got in the door. So imagine if you had to, you know, bust out a bunch of prep and get something going now versus we got this going at what, 10 o'clock this morning, and it's raring to go as soon as we get in the door. So
might have been a little bit later when we actually got it in the crock pot, but somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yep. So let's dig in.
All right, well, hey everybody, thanks for watching. Remember, hit that subscribe button, and here in about 2 months, we'll bring you something else. Be warm weather, we might do something on the green egg or on the Blackstone at that point, and try to do something a little bit more outdoorsy for those summer months. So see you next time. Hit the subscribe button, give us a big thumbs up.